Let us execute an immediate, sweeping analytical vector shift away from federal criminal profiling, weaponized mountain wilderness terrain, and the Appalachian burial grounds of FBI mystery thrillers, and plunge straight into the high-octane, calculation-heavy tracking grids of high-stakes domestic settlement warfare, weaponized matrimonial liability loops, and the fiercely protective, dangerously fragile world of an endangered marital asset running a raw tactical survival loop. We are crossing the threshold directly into the hyper-monitored, panic-slicked parameters of a toxic suburban dissolution matrix, exploring the lethal analytical parameters of a devastating, trust-shattering deception matrix with The Divorce, the exceptional, pulse-pounding psychological domestic suspense thriller masterpiece engineered by the absolute undisputed global sovereign of breathtaking household secrets, double-blind relationship traps, and high-velocity relational friction, Freida McFadden. This high-stakes narrative tracking sequence delivers an exceptional look at an operational crossroads where a fierce, hyper-vigilant wife asset running an unyielding defensive litigation loop, a calculating, manipulative husband asset running an elite proximity tracking and asset stripping extraction routine, and an absolute defense against an encroaching historical blackmail ledger collide at terminal velocity. Let us map the strategic narrative grid. If you are an elite enthusiast of high-octane, slow-burn psychological thrillers, where an endangered, hyper-observant female protagonist must navigate an absolute maze of rigged prenup structures, corrupt family law standoffs, and a deadly ring of active personal frame-ups while running a blind survival loop inside a completely compromised luxury home ecosystem, where an analytical mind uses deep behavioral profiling, calculated property division boundaries, and absolute emotional stamina to outmaneuver an invisible predatory executioner asset weaponizing institutional legal mechanics, and where the author utilizes an incandescent, deeply unhappy wife discovers her wealthy husband's secret extramarital tracking logs, initiating a brutal divorce war that uncovers a fatal sabotage and revenge agenda diagnostic routine to test our hero's structural limits. This book is engineered to lock you in. McFadden completely dominates the high-precision matrimonial jeopardy meets suffocating domestic gaslighting puzzles dynamic, capturing the heart-racing intellectual momentum, suffocating domestic paranoia, and heavy deductive depth popularized by genre vargs like Gillian Flynn, Freida McFadden, dominating her own legendary court, B.A. Paris, and Lucy Foley, while treating realistic legal separation logistics, complex dark possessive loyalty arcs, and protective high-density domestic extraction grids with absolute technical mastery. The narrative tracking grid zeroes in on the highly volatile, calculation-heavy baseline of our central legendary powerhouse asset, operating under a severe calculation-heavy handicap of intense psychological manipulation, systemic gaslighting logs, and hyper-visible targeting canvas within a wealthy spouse's localized database. Behind our protagonist's rigorous household management footprints, defensive conversational shields, and sharp observation metrics lies an intricate matrix of hidden faction allegiances, deeply buried high society friction, and sharp, high-stakes tactical maneuvers. Her collective defense mechanisms are locked down tight following a high-stakes past timeline family betrayal, her entire analytical focus strictly consumed by monitoring sudden threat vectors from an active, unseen domestic predator, parsing complex behavioral shifts in her own fractured household diary logs, and shielding her vulnerable personal sovereignty note from being entirely wiped out by a ruthless elite cleanup offensive. The spark ignites when an unexpected high-frequency structural anomaly breaches her active scanning perimeter. An accidental discovery of hidden financial records and encrypted digital tracking files reveals that her seemingly perfect husband is methodically engineering a total lifestyle stripping loop to delete her legal rights and strip her of her freedom. As the defensive litigation networks initialize an aggressive legal disclosure phase, the household environment escalates from a cold war of silent dinners to an active, localized hostile tracking zone. Behind the marriage's pristine, wealthy civilian facade and clinical romantic metrics lies an intricate matrix of deep-seated malice, a history of hidden family resentments, and a cold, calculation-heavy target containment blueprint. As the hostile adversarial separation phases enter an increasingly lethal terminal tier across a ticking clock timeline, the unauthorized discovery of hidden corporate text records and compromised schedules reveals that her isolation was meticulously engineered. The standard boundaries of domestic trust and peaceful civilian compliance protocols crumble, and our central protagonists run completely out of standard diplomatic escape vectors. She is thrust directly into an active, invisible war behind closed mansion doors, where a highly manipulative adversarial asset launches terrifying countermeasures to permanently suppress her survival data stream and execute her complete systemic erasure. The tactical parameters instantly explode as their historical and survival war turns completely active, transforming the large suburban estate, dark legal consultation rooms, and private fortified residential zones into a volatile psychological pressure cooker and a physical battle zone. Our protective, hyper-vigilant heroine is forced to deploy her massive intuitive tradecraft, elite cross-examination mapping skills, and raw emotional stamina to preserve her focus before her adversary's relentless, calculation-heavy proximity containment phase permanently deletes her boundaries.
The threat vector remains purposeful and resolute, determined to deploy deep digital evidence manipulation loops, continuous psychological gaslighting via public shaming, and persistent dominance to shatter her defense, only to realize that when a survivor asset's core threshold is crossed, her hardened household defense protocols and shifting counter-narratives match their opponent's raw tactical speed step for step. Every midnight archival excavation of hidden mobile records, every silent choice to stand off against an encroaching adversary behind standard architectural barriers, and every intense moment of channeling raw, unyielding survival mechanics chips away at her reliance on original peaceful rules. What follows is an exceptional high-stakes war of perspective, tactical position, and raw human grit. We watch the Predator Network's deceptive perimeters completely unwrapped as Freida McFadden reveals that the true victory requires more than just surviving an initial public scandal or managing a difficult personal disclosure. It demands an absolute, uncompromising defense of individual dignity, personal truth, and systemic survival against a cold, calculating machine of domestic manipulation and psychopathic supremacy. While our central characters smooth over each other's psychological and defensive blind spots with devastating analytical force, creating a fiercely protective, absolute web of dark, possessive loyalty around their building defense team, a brutal series of close-quarters tactical confrontations and high-stakes evidentiary breakthroughs shifts the clock into its terminal phase, proving that deep-seated obsession has tracked them to their final outpost. To survive the impending Lockrid trap and permanently secure her sanctuary, our resilient heroine must unleash an absolute, unyielding defense of her final boundary lines. It is a psychological thriller, satirical domestic noir, matrimonial mystery, and high-velocity contemporary puzzle masterpiece that treats deep relational logistics and intense structural friction with elite precision. The tension here burns with a sharp, calculation-heavy intensity. We are talking about that high-frequency, one uncovered prenup clause triggers a fatal mansion staircase showdown energy, where a sudden pause during an active franchise tactical briefing, an unexpected shift in an adversary's protective physical posture during a high-stakes standoff confrontation, or a heavy, possessive realization that an elite intelligence operative has completely mapped your personal coordinates carries massive structural weight. McFadden writes with an exceptionally fresh, vivid, and beautifully blunt voice, perfectly capturing the heavy, oppressive atmosphere of a private executive vault before a major corporate takeover, and the distinct, subtle scent of polished mahogany, expensive designer perfume, cold legal bond paper, dark adrenaline, and pure, unadulterated suspense. What truly elevates this contemporary standalone marvel into elite heir to rare is the author's unmatched ability to balance complex, high-stakes relationship dynamics and genuine protective power tradecraft alongside a breathtaking narrative pace and deep emotional hooks. Our protagonists don't rely on unbelievable superficial Hollywood superhero action tropes. Their immense situational intelligence, strategic patience, and profound survival instincts match the complexity of the chaotic modern corporate and high society underworld they dominate step for step, making their choices to risk everything feel profoundly authentic and deeply gripping. The pacing moves with calculated momentum, tracking intense conversational standoffs and breathtaking tactical breakthroughs before ratcheting up to an absolute jaw-dropping conclusion that delivers total, hard-earned advancement to their horizon. The Divorce is the definitive pro-level upgrade your high-stakes contemporary thriller and intense asset suspense library demands right now. It is elegant, immensely fast-paced, and utterly unputdownable. It proves that when your entire sanctuary is targeted by a cold, calculating institutional monster, the most revolutionary play you can execute is to lock your perimeters, trust your elite survival training, and fight like hell with your network to rewrite the data. So secure your personal reading sanctuary, review your emotional defensive perimeters, open your Kindle, and prepare to track the fleet.